What's up, family? Welcome to my channel. I'm Crystal Divine Queen, and this is my indigenous lifestyle. If you are new to my channel, I basically help black women and mothers create the birth experience that they truly desire by just providing any kind of knowledge there is to know that has to do with pregnancy, childbirth, and afterbirth. I am also vlogging my journey of becoming a certified doula as well. So definitely check out the Becoming a Doula playlist and all of my other videos. I'm pretty sure you will find things that resonate with you, because this channel isn't just about me being a doula or women who are expecting or have just given birth. I also share a little bit of my personal life as well, and that is why the name of this channel is My Indigenous Lifestyle, because it's all about reclaiming our ancestral roots. Okay, so check out some of my videos and definitely subscribe to the channel and turn on my notifications when you do. But enough of that, let's get into this video. Today I just wanted to come on and talk to you guys about some of the benefits and risks of ultrasounds. Now, if you haven't had a chance to watch my first video that I made where I just basically discussed what is an ultrasound, go ahead and pause this video, check that one out, and then come back to this one, because this is kind of like the to be continued of that video. Okay, now I want to kick this video off by just briefly letting you guys know about due dates. Okay, now when it comes to getting a due date from an ultrasound, before 14 weeks is the most accurate, and I actually did make a video on due dates. You can go ahead and pause for the cause and check that video out now or later if you would like. But when it comes to getting your due date from an ultrasound, anything before 14 weeks is the most accurate. But the thing is, your due date, you'll probably notice it changes. Like, the further you get along, the more ultrasounds you get, your due date changes. And the further along you get in pregnancy, the more off that estimation is. And that's something that a lot of us do not know. Due dates anyways have only a 5% chance of being accurate. And, you know, estimating your due date from the last day of your last period is just as accurate as using an ultrasound. So it's really something that you should look at as like a due month or a due season. That could be a benefit. And I didn't say this in the beginning of the video, but I'm starting off with the benefits of getting an ultrasound. So the first benefit would be due dates, but you have to keep in mind that due dates are just an estimation, and it doesn't necessarily mean that your baby is going to come that day or even the week of that date. It's a very, very low chance of it being accurate, but sometimes it does happen. Alright, now the second benefit of an ultrasound is knowing the sex of the baby. This is something that a lot of us look forward to. We look forward to that ultrasound when we get to find out if we're having a boy or a girl. In some cases, even finding out if it's going to be 1 or 2 or 3 babies inside of that belly. That is another benefit of getting an ultrasound, but I don't think a lot of us are aware that that is not the only way to find out the sex of our babies. Okay, you can also get a genetic screening test from a sample of the mother's blood. A lot of us do not know about that, but that is another way to find out the sex of your baby instead of using an ultrasound. Like I always say, just know your options and know the risk associated with your options that you're choosing. Okay, so that's the second benefit that I have for ultrasounds. The third benefit that I have is that when you get an ultrasound, it can rule out the possibility of an ectopic pregnancy. Alright, so I'm going to speak from a little bit of personal experience here, because I have had an ectopic pregnancy before. Basically, in my situation, the baby was stuck, if you will, in the tube. It didn't travel all the way to my womb, and the baby or the egg at that point, you know, just was growing and growing, and it burst. And so I had internal bleeding. Now, I found out about this from an ultrasound, and I was so far early in my pregnancy that it had to be a vaginal. It was from a vaginal ultrasound that I was able to find out that I did in fact have an ectopic pregnancy. Again, that was a benefit of the ultrasound, you know, because had I not had that vaginal ultrasound, I would not have known. And like, that's a video that I'm probably going to do a story time for now that I'm sitting here thinking about it and talking about it, because that was a story, you guys. Like, I almost died, okay? The next benefit of getting an ultrasound is that when you get an ultrasound, it can determine the placenta pervia. The placenta pervia, okay? And that's basically when the placenta attaches in the lower part of the uterus, or may entirely or partially cover the cervix. And this is good to know because it just allows you to know that your body is moving on track and progressing throughout pregnancy the way that everything is supposed to go. All right, the fifth benefit of an ultrasound that I have for you would be heart rate monitoring, okay? This can be a benefit, you know. The baby's heart rate drops. Getting that ultrasound does allow you to, you know, keep sort of a record of what is normal for you or your baby's heart rate, more particularly your baby. And there are other forms of ultrasound that you could utilize to keep track of the heart rate, such as a handheld Doppler or the fetal heart rate monitor. And then my last benefit, which is probably one of the greatest benefits of all, even more greater than finding out what you're having, is just having that bonding experience with your baby. You know, the first time that you see that little baby moving around in the ultrasound and you're like, that's in my belly, you know, that can be a very benefit to ultrasounds for sure. A lot of us don't feel like it's real until we see that ultrasound, but that is another benefit, and the last benefit that I wrote down for ultrasounds. Now let's get into the risks of ultrasounds, which I'm sure the things that I'm about to say may be things you have never heard of before, or you may already be familiar with. Kudos to you if you are. But my goal is to always put the information out there because I just want women in general to be informed about what it is that they're consenting to, because we are not living in a society where hospitals and physicians are properly informing us of the procedures that we are consenting to. So the first thing that I have to express about ultrasounds is that the safety of ultrasounds has not been proven, and this is a fact. We are told that there are no links to be found between ultrasounds and birth defects and childhood cancer and developmental problems that could occur later on in life. However, there is some concern about the amount of heat that is generated by ultrasound machines, okay? So let's get into that a little bit deeper, all right? And I'm going to try to keep this as simple as possible so that it is easily understood, all right? Now, an increase of temperature in tissue is thought to be safe. This is from anywhere between 1.8 to 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit. But studies have found that ultrasounds, either regular, pulsar, or Doppler, which just sends a continuous wave of ultrasound rather than the pulses, may actually in fact heat tissues above the maximum safe temperature, especially in or around body areas, and especially when the wand is held in place for longer than 2 to 3 seconds, okay? Let's just repeat that and dissect that. Now, what I basically just said to you is that studies have found that ultrasound, whether it is a regular pulse ultrasound or a Doppler, which just consists of continuous waves of ultrasounds being transmitted, has the possibility to heat the body tissues up above the maximum safe temperature, especially in or around body areas. So in the vagina or around the belly, on the skin of the body. And especially when the wand is held in place for longer than 2 to 3 seconds. So if you've gotten an ultrasound before, you already know that they take the wand and they go up and they go down and around and around. And then when they find that spot where the baby is, they'll hold it for a little bit and then move it and hold it. And so that's at least 2 to 3 seconds more that they're holding this wand in place. And we're not even aware that what the ultrasound waves are doing to the tissues in our body is it's heating it up. It's heating it up above maximum safety level of temperature, and that causes some area for concern, okay? And I'm gonna tell you why. Now, additionally, Doppler ultrasound has been shown to cause significant heating, especially in the baby's development of the brain, which may point to the continuous waves being more problematic than the pulsing waves, okay? So basically what I just said is that it has been shown that when you use an ultrasound that like a Doppler, the Doppler has the continuous waves. When you use that method of ultrasound, it has been shown to cause more problems from the heat related to the developing of the baby's brain than using an ultrasound with just pulses, that radiates pulses. Now, what I just said is that one is more unsafe than the other, but I did not say that the other is not unsafe. That's the first risk of ultrasound that a lot of us are unaware of, and we're definitely not being educated about that because we're hardly even being explained about what the whole procedure is of an ultrasound. You know, we're just being told, okay, we're going to give you an ultrasound so we can see what the baby looks like. We can hear the baby's heartbeat and we can find out the baby's sex or how much the baby weighs. But we're never being told, well, how is it that the ultrasound is able to provide us with these information? So again, check out my first video where I talk about what is an ultrasound, because I'm basically answering that question. My second risk that I want to talk to you about is from a study that I found pertaining to animals that receive receive ultrasounds, okay? And in animals, they have found a connection between ultrasounds and birth defects. One study found that brain hemorrhages were found in the fetuses who were exposed to the pulsed ultrasounds, giving in similar doses to what humans are given when we get ultrasounds. So similar to those used on human babies. Now, if you're unfamiliar with animal testing, there's a reason why they do testing on animals first before they do testing on humans, and it's because a lot of times whatever reaction an animal is going to have, especially a mammal, 9 times out of 10 the human is going to have the same, if not a very similar reaction to whatever the procedure may be. Another study that I came across found that mice, adult mice that are exposed to similar ultrasounds that we're exposed to when we give birth, had a 22% reduction rate in cell development. These mice also experienced twice the rate of cell death in the small intestine. Now, on to humans. So there is a study from University of Washington that I found, and I will put the link to this study in the description box below. They found a correlation from autistic boys who had ultrasounds in the first trimester and the severity of their symptoms. There's another study from back in the 90s when ultrasounds were 7 times weaker than they are now, but it showed an increased risk of miscarriage or preterm birth. So there were about 9,000 pregnant women included in this study in 2 groups. One group had routine ultrasounds between 16 to 20 weeks and the other group did not. There were 16 fetal deaths in the group where they had ultrasounds and none in the group that did not. I will link that study as well. And then one last study I found was about risk for prenatal death, autism, ADHD, genetic damage, jaundice, and childhood cancers and allergies. Now, I'm not going to go into detail about all 3 or 4 of those studies, but I am going to put them in the link in the description box below so that you will have access to more information. In preparing for this video, trying to find evidence-based information to back up everything as far as the risk of ultrasounds, I must say that there is not a lot of evidence-based information out there. There's not a lot of studies done on this, and therefore it makes ultrasounds even more of a risk because there haven't been tests done or information made available to us about the risk of ultrasounds. So all in all, we're very misinformed about ultrasounds, and there's a lot of missing information about ultrasounds. So this is why they can be risky. The thing about ultrasounds is if they were able to improve the outcomes of babies, then the potential risk associated with them may be less significant. But the fact of the matter is that ultrasounds do not improve fetal outcomes. So that kind of ties me into what my next video is going to be about ultrasounds, which is how necessary are ultrasounds. And I decided to make that a separate video because I don't want this to be very, very long. But definitely make sure you are subscribed, turned on my notifications so you can get yours once I upload that video. And again, if you haven't checked out the first video I made pertaining to ultrasounds, go ahead and check that one out now that we are done. Okay, thank you guys once again for tuning into my video about the risk and the benefits of ultrasounds. Please know that I have only began to scratch the surface on this topic in this video, but it's just to put a little bit of information out there that you may not have been aware of or you may need clarity on, and I hope that you gained one if not both of those from watching my videos. So until the next video, guys, peace.